And welcome everyone to the regular briefing meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Today is Wednesday, February 24th, and we're glad you're joining us this evening. Since this is a remote meeting, we will begin with a roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson.
I'm present, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix.
Present, thank you.
Alderman Boyer.
Present, thank you.
Alderman Cruz.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Town Manager Curtis Swisher.
Present, thank you.
Our Town Attorney John Wolf is not in the meeting tonight. Assistant Town Attorney Ed Powell. Let's test your microphone, Mr. Powell.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Town Clerk Keith Hooker.
Present.
Thank you. IT Director Adam Hutchins.
Yes, ma'am, present.
Thank you. Kernersville Police Chief Tim Summers.
Present.
Thank you. Kernersville Fire Rescue Chief Scott Alderman.
Present.
Thank you. Community Development Director Jeff Hatling.
Present.
Thank you. Public Services Director Doran Maltba.
Present.
Thank you. Finance Director Franz Ader.
Present.
Thank you. Parks and Rec Director Ernie Pages.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Human Resources Director Crystal Tanner. Is she in the courtroom?
She is.
Thank you. Is there any other staff on this call that I have not called, Mr. Swisher?
No, ma'am.
Okay. We will have our invocation tonight will be delivered by Jeff Hatling, the Director of our Community Development Department. Mr. Hatling.
Thank you, Mayor Morgan. Lord, thank you for blessing us and gathering us this evening. And of course, our prayers first go out to Officer Houle. We ask that you pray for his healing and pray for his family and fast recovery. And Lord, thank you for blessing this beautiful community and continue to pour out for the people in need. And let us be thankful for all you provide and give guidance for this meeting tonight. These things we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Hatling. We certainly are keeping Officer Houle and his family in our thoughts and prayers, and we thank the community for all the support they have shown. Item 1 is a consideration of a resolution to declare badge and service weapons of Captain Kevin Clodfelter of the Kernersville Police Department surplus and authorized disposal upon his retirement. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
I have a second.
I have a motion by Alderman Kenny Cruz and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Jenny Fulton. Since this is a remote meeting, the vote will be by roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton.
In favor, and congratulations, Kevin. Job well done.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson.
Approved.
In favor? Yes. Okay. Alderman Joe Penix.
In favor, thank you. And thank you for your service, Kevin.
Alderman Boyer.
In favor, and also thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz.
In favor, and thank you too, Kevin.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations and thank you for your service, Captain Clodfelter. All right, item 2 is briefing on the March 2nd, 2021 regular meeting agenda. We have several public hearings, but they are all relating to text amendments. Because of this, I've been advised by our Community Development Director that we could approach the vote on them differently than we have recently. Mr. Hatling, if you could address this, please.
Yes, these text amendments tonight that I'll cover are all the Town of Kernersville text amendment. They're not time sensitive. So to save a meeting, we will not have to have a follow-up meeting within 2 days to allow for the 24-hour comment. We can, staff is recommending that we place the action on these public hearing items after the public hearings are closed at your next briefing. That way we won't crowd up the regular monthly meeting for about a month straight. I think we're currently in March, so your April Board of Aldermen briefing, we would recommend that these be action items, and then we should free up time for your April regular agenda items.
So at the end of the public hearing on next Tuesday, if someone can make a motion to continue those items to the briefing meeting.
So moved.
Well, not tonight. On Tuesday, when we consider them, after the public hearing's closed.
Is Chris making the motion?
You don't need one tonight.
So I'll cover the public hearing items. I'll cover all of them just to be brief tonight. The first text amendment is kind of a cleanup to our RM18 district. It's the only district that does not allow for townhomes in the staff report, the planning board report, in the agenda. You'll see that there's several small pocket RM18 areas. It would be great infill projects for some townhomes. And so staff and planning board is recommending that we include townhomes in the definitions or defined under RM18. The remaining public hearing items, B, C, D, and E, are all related to 160D, that state statute that regulates, provides power to municipalities for planning and development regulations. So we're required to update our Unified Development Ordinance. And so these are all text amendments associated with updating our Unified Development Ordinance. In the coming months, there'll be some additional 160D text amendments. And so staff is available to answer any questions you have, and I'll give a brief summary at the regular Board of Aldermen meeting.
Does anyone have any questions at this time on items 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, or 1E? All right, and they will be public hearings because they are text amendments. And as Mr. Hatling explained earlier, we can take a vote on them at the briefing meeting in advance of the April regular meeting. All right, we'll move on to item 2, public session. A, of course, is speakers from the floor, where residents of our community may come speak to the board on a non-agenda item of their choosing. Item B is consideration of a resolution setting the public hearing for a voluntary annexation petition for property located on Beeson Road at the intersection of Beeson Court, containing 13.539 acres, more or less. Mr. Swisher?
This is the property that the town recently purchased from the Beeson heirs, Scott Beeson and his sisters. This property is not currently in the town limits, and so we're recommending the board annex that property into the town.
Does anyone have any questions?
No.
All right, item C is the 2020 annual reports and the 2021 budget requests for Paul Senior Botanical Gardens, Kernersville Little Theater, Kernersville Museum, and Kerner's Folly. Mr. Swisher?
You have those 4 agencies. They will submit written reports, and I think they will also come on and give those reports. I think the board has requested that they give those reports virtually, so we will have representatives from each of those here Tuesday night, or online rather, to give those reports.
Okay, are there any questions?
I have no questions, but is there anything out of the ordinary that we should expect at the board meeting rather than the briefing?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. I went through a couple of the reports. Curtis, do you want me to ask you tonight, or you want me to wait and ask it on Tuesday night of the representative? I can do either.
Depending on what it's related to. I mean, if it's something on our end, you can certainly ask it tonight, or if it's something on their end, then you can ask them either one. You can ask me. If I can't answer it, I'll see if I can get it to you.
Well, I'll just give you a couple if you want to check into it, and maybe they can answer or provide the answer on Tuesday night just to save time.
Okay.
On the garden, when I go through their attachments under expense, it says Town of Kernersville, $25,000. I would think that's not an expense. That would be income to them, but they are reporting it as an expense. And if it is an expense, then I'm wondering what we're charging them for $25,000.
It should not be an expense.
Exactly. So I would probably correct that. And then it was interesting, with COVID and everything being down in 2020, it looks like they must have received another grant, because from January to October 20, they had income of $99,548.19, which they had budgeted about $50,000. So I'm just curious if they were able to get any help from, the COVID or PPP or just anything, because if they were, then maybe that would help our other nonprofits. So I'm just curious about that. Just want to make sure that we're not missing an opportunity, because they had an increase in 2020 when most companies and nonprofits had a decrease.
I think they got PPP money, but I am not 100% sure. So that would be a good question for them, because they can answer that, because I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, well, I'll ask them that. Then this is for Keith. Just a heads up, Keith, on the Kernersville Little Theater on our website, not all of their pages have been uploaded. It looks like only page 1 was uploaded, not page 2, 3, or 4. So you might want to add that so the public can see that.
Thank you. I'll check that.
Yep, sure, no problem. On to the Kernersville Museum. Last year, I think there was a pretty good discussion about the $36,000, and it was approved. This year, they're asking for $25,000, but when I look at their budget and income, they're showing only $25,000 from the town of Kernersville. They got $4,000 from the foundation and $5,000 from other. So I just like an explanation of where the other $11,000 that we approved went, because I couldn't find it in their budget for 2020. And then on the Folly, I think everything was good. That's all I had.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I will get with them so that they can answer those questions.
Okay, that'll just save time, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot.
All right.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Are there any other questions by other aldermen? Okay. All right, the next item is 2E, which is consideration of a memorandum of understanding with the City of Winston-Salem Fire Department. Mr. Swisher or Chief Alderman?
I think you skipped 2D, Mayor. I'll be glad to go ahead and cover 2E, whichever way you want to do it.
I prefer to go in order, so let's do D first.
All right, well, D will be quick anyway. The police department has been awarded a grant in the amount of $17,005 from the Governor's Crime Commission. It is for equipment and training that will be focused on school safety. It does not require a match, but it does require approval by the board. So that will be on for Tuesday night. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Chief Summers as well can answer any you might have.
Okay, I believe this brings us to 2E, which is the Memorandum of Understanding with the City of Winston-Salem Fire Department.
And Chief Alderman will cover that.
Thank you, Manager. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and the board. This is a memorandum of understanding for automatic and mutual aid between Fire Department and Winston-Salem Fire Department. Just so you're aware, we work closely with all the departments around our town, and we routinely discuss and evaluate training and deployment and other areas of our operations and how we can enhance our services to the community. Our department and Winston-Salem Fire Department both send multiple stations to structure fire incidents and certain types of rescue incidents. And this MOU provides for the closest station or stations from either department to be dispatched. This provides for better response times for backup units or the initial responding unit if the primary station is tied up on another call. Both departments will be providing equal service to one another. And just so you're aware, for Winston-Salem, we will primarily be utilizing them in the western and southern portions of the town. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any
Thank you.
questions?
No, thank you, Chief Alderman.
Thank you.
All right, we are to 2F, consideration of an intergovernmental agreement with the Winston-Salem Urban Area, MPO.
Madam Mayor, I'll let Mr. Hatling cover that.
This is a agreement through our MPO providing 80% funding for an intersection study at Old Salem and Teague Lane. The 20% match will come from our Caleb's Creek Capital Reserve Fund. When Caleb's Creek was approved several years ago, there's a road fee that goes towards looking at offsite improvements and planning. And so we'll utilize those capital reserves for our 20% match. Staff is recommending approval of this contract as a memorandum of understanding.
Okay, are there any questions? All right, we will move on then to item 2G, the budget amendment number 5. Mr. Swisher.
Madam Mayor, the board, you have the budget amendment in your packet. I'll briefly go over it. Almost all of the expenditures, except for a couple, have offsetting revenue. The first of those is the governing body, $50,000 to cover legal expenses associated with the assistant town attorney. Number 2 is inspections department. We have taken in a tremendous amount of revenue above and beyond what we budgeted for. And the state general statute for inspections does not really allow you to take that money and just bank it. So we're recommending replacing one of our vehicles in the inspections department. It's 18 years old. We can do it now with the excess revenue. We can put it in the budget and do it. So we're recommending doing that now. You will see the revenue, the offsetting revenue is excess revenue that we've generated. We do have some overtime in planning and zoning. It's minimal, $2,500. As you all know, we've been down some staff in that department recently, so we've had to cover some overtime. The next 2 are grants, one for the police department, one for the fire department. Number 6 is the recreation department. That goes along with the Civitan Park project that the board approved. And it's the $110,000. We'll cover the fitness court. They will start that. That's part of the Civitan Park renovation project. And the last one is the big one. We are moving some money, or recommending moving some money to the special appropriations department, the amount of $1.473 million. We are transferring that from the capital. We're transferring it to the capital reserve fund from the general fund. That come from the sale of the tower lease that we had that the board approved, and also the reimbursement of $275,000 from the Forsyth County Clerk of Superior Court. So those two combined for $1.473 million, and we're recommending transferring those into a capital reserve fund for future recreation projects. Of course, the board can, at some point, if you decide to, you can move it to another capital reserve fund. But we didn't want to just put it in the general fund, have it as part of the general fund, and then it just gets spent wherever along the way. So I think I discussed with you all about putting the tower money and the other money, the tower money for sure, into that fund, and we combined the other money with that as well. So be glad to answer any questions that the board may have.
Are there any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, the next item then is 2H, which is consideration of a resolution adopting the town of Kernersville CIP, the capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2021 to 22 through 2025, 2026. Mr. Swisher?
Yes, ma'am. We present this to the board every year for adoption. We are required by state law to adopt a capital improvement plan. As I've said before, we don't have a capital improvement project fund. So ours is funded through the general operating budget, but we're still required to adopt a capital improvement plan. You have that plan in your packet. It breaks it out as vehicle outlay, capital outlay, equipment capital outlay, infrastructure, buildings, and transportation. So you have, and stormwater. So you have those categories that shows the proposed projects and equipment and everything over that time that you mentioned. As I've said in the past, this obligates the board really to nothing, and especially without us having a capital improvement fund, and doing this as we can in the budget. It gets moved around a lot, but we put it in there to the best of our knowledge and in a perfect world, what we would like to see. And every year we get some of it, and every year we don't get some of it. So, we'll put it in there and we'll move along. And, some years we buy something that's we thought was going to be 2024, 25, and we end up buying it in 2021. So we just really never know. But for the most part, we do pretty good job of following that and getting that equipment and infrastructure as it comes up. The bigger infrastructure items, the bigger buildings, things like that, obviously, they are the most likely to be pushed back from year to year. Be glad to answer any questions that the board may have.
Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, do you have any questions?
I don't, because it was not in my packet. Keith Hooker, can you get that to me maybe tomorrow for my review? I didn't have it in here. Please.
Yes, I will do that. Did any of the other board members not have that item in their packet?
I did not either.
You may not have because of the size of the document, but I will make sure that you have it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I believe that was Curtis, is that the item that we got late that day? Was that one of the last things we got that day?
Yeah, we got it late, but we got it in time to put in the packet, but it is a much larger document.
It's a large document. If any of you would prefer not to have it, just let me know.
But we can certainly get you a copy of it.
We can certainly get you a copy.
Is there a way to format it differently so that it's on pages rather than a long spreadsheet, so that each year is on its own page or something?
Perhaps
no.
I can try to manipulate the document to do that. But I don't think so.
Can you do a summary of it or something, Curtis? Because it would be hard to have it open.
I mean, it's on Ledger. I mean, it's formatted and printed out about the easiest way you can get it. I mean, it's just.
So you can print it. It's not like.
Oh yeah, we can print it, certainly. It's on Ledger paper, so we can certainly print it.
Okay.
Yes, it will just print on the long paper.
And you can open it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you can open it in Excel. You just have to scroll over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the concern is if everyone is using, to explain to anybody watching, the town went paperless for a lot of these documents many years ago. It saves a lot of paper, which is more environmentally friendly. It had the effect of making the documents more quickly accessible for the public because they would no longer have to come to town hall to pick up a paper copy. They could look it up online as soon as it was posted, which was when we also were able to look at it as elected officials. So if something got posted on a Friday, you you wouldn't have to wait till Monday to get the document in preparation for the meeting on Tuesday. So it was very good. But with having the remote meetings, the same device that we would normally refer to for these documents and spreadsheets during the meeting, we're also using for the remote meeting to broadcast. So it's hard to have the responsibilities switch between screens mid-meeting if you have a question or a concern. So I think it would be good to have a printed copy. If the copy the format we've been traditionally putting it in will work to print, that I'm absolutely fine with that. I was concerned that maybe it was something that wouldn't print properly, but since you're assuring me it will, then I think that sounds great. And Keith, I think it's fine if you roll it instead of fold it, if that's an easier way to distribute it to everyone.
That may be.
And certainly that'll be posted on the website. And certainly if a citizen would like a copy of it, they can get a printed copy from Town Hall or refer to it on the website.
Well, it's not on the website. That's one reason I was bringing it up. It's not listed, Keith.
Thank you. I wasn't aware of that, but I'll make sure that it's
Yeah, it's not
posted as
there.
well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I mean, if you don't want to bring me a copy, I don't mind pulling it from the website. It's not attached.
Yeah, we'll print you a copy. I mean, it's no problem.
We'll print you a copy, because if you try to print it at home, I don't know if it's going to print. It probably would end up chopping it up into multiple pages when you go to print it, if it tried to print it on regular paper.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much. And then I just want to make sure the public can see it as well.
Keith, when will you be able to put these additional documents that have not been loaded onto the website, onto the Town of Kernersville website?
Tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else on the CIP before we move on?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Item 2I is consideration of a resolution regarding a grant application to the North Carolina Division of Water Resources.
This was a grant that the board gave approval in December of 2020 for us to apply for. There are some additional requirements that the board has to agree to, or the town has to agree to, through a resolution. You have a memo in your packet that states those 8 additional requirements, as well as a resolution that states those 8 additional requirements, showing the responsibilities of the town. Staff is, of course, still recommending that we apply for the grant. Those requirements are something that we would have done anyway, so it's really no additional work. It's just something that the state requires us to state it in a resolution, that we will do those.
Okay, the next item would be the consent agenda. Then speakers from the floor. The town manager's report. Curtis, do you have anything on that this evening?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Not that I'm aware of, no, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and then do we have any insight as to what the town attorney's office will present at the meeting? Mr. Powell?
Not aware of any at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor,
All right.
I
Yes,
have
Mr. Hooker.
one thing I wanted to mention. In the agenda, the resolution for the annexation, the original wording referred to it as Beeson Road at the intersection of Beeson Court. I had received revised wording from Mr. Wolf that identifies it as located on Beeson Road across from Ivy Redmond Park or Ivy Redmond Sports Complex. Of course, the legal description then says it is at the intersection of Beeson Court. I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. So if there are any questions about why it says one thing in one place and one thing in another, and I can change the agenda to say that it's on State Road 2636 at Beeson, which is also known as Beeson Road. Or I can leave the agenda item saying Beeson Road at the intersection of Beeson Court, which in a way it tells people a little bit more about where it is. I think that John may have changed that because Beeson Court is a private road. And so, of course, the property owner could eliminate that road at any time. Just wanted to make the board aware of that.
It would certainly seem to make it clearer as to where the property is located with the description that includes the park. But I will take this question to Mr. Powell. Mr. Powell, what is your recommendation as to the two descriptions we've been given and the agenda? Should the board vote to amend the agenda to reflect the updated wording?
I think so.
All right. I'd like a motion then to update the agenda as requested by the town clerk.
I'll make a motion to update the amendment that's
All right.
presented by the clerk.
Okay. I have a motion by Alderman Cruz and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Fulton.
Well, I think Alderman Boyers wants to second that, so we'll let him do it.
Okay. Second by Alderman Boyer then. And we'll vote as a roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton.
In favor. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson.
In favor.
Thank you. Alderman Penix.
In favor?
Thank you. Alderman Boyer.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, I saw your speaker come on before Mr. Boyer, so.
Well, he was leaning in, so I was going to be respectful on that, but thank you.
Kenny, what do you do when everyone wants to bid on the auction item at the same time?
You just charge them both.
Well, that's an easy vote, Keith. We appreciate you bringing that to our attention, and we do want the information out there available to the public to be as precise and thorough as possible. So that's a good change to the agenda. So thank you for bringing that up. All righty.
Thank you.
All right. Now, as to the meeting for Tuesday, March 2nd, just so everyone remembers, we'll need to do a motion rather than adjourning the meeting. We'll have to do a motion to continue the meeting to the briefing or continue consideration.
Madam Mayor, since you won't be voting on those items until the next scheduled meeting, which would be the briefing meeting at the end of the month, you can simply adjourn the meeting on March 2nd because you will have already voted at that meeting to place those items for a vote on the briefing agenda.
Okay. All right.
I just have a quick question on that. Is there a reason and I probably missed it. I'm sorry, Jeff, if you explained this, that we were putting it just on the briefing and not the regular meeting? Because more people watch the regular meeting than the briefing. So I just want to see why we're doing that.
You can do either way. Staff is recommending the briefing because it's 5 agenda items and it give you a better chance not to fill up your regular meeting with non-controversial items.
Are you planning on a lot coming in April for like public hearings or rezonings?
No. Well, March, our cases, the planning board cases for March have been moved to April. And
right,
so
wasn't that meeting canceled?
There's 2 different cases that we're working on, one on senior apartments on Salisbury, and planned residential development on County Line Road, and they're both being moved to April.
Well, but my question is, wasn't the planning board meeting in March canceled?
Correct.
So since we're not going to have any cases in April, you would prefer to hear it at a briefing versus the April meeting when we don't have any cases?
Correct.
Okay.
We will have already held the public hearing. The public hearing is scheduled for and will be held on March 2nd. It's on the agenda for March 2nd. So we'll have already held the public hearing. And so the question is, when do we want to vote on these items? It's text amendments. And the last time we had text amendments, there wasn't a lot of strong public interest. We didn't receive any comments on them prior to our voting on them. We could have a meeting the same week we have the March 2nd meeting, 24 hours after the public hearings. The planning board has been voting on things that are text amendments at their next regular meeting, but they don't have a briefing meeting. So we could have just any time after 24 hours has elapsed is when we could vote on them. So we could put it on the agenda for the briefing meeting, since the only thing that will happen is a vote. There's no further, unless the board wants to talk about it, there's no public hearing.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, for that. I realize that. I just know that more people watch our actual meetings versus our briefing. And I realize that we'll hear it next week. But it'll be, 21 days before it comes back again. I'm just making sure that that's the way planning or community development wanted it at the briefing versus a regular meeting where more people attend or watch remotely. I'm fine either way. I also was concerned because the planning board meeting in March was canceled. So I'm thinking we probably won't have much for April, but I could be wrong.
Okay, let me poll the board. When would you like to hear and take the vote on these? We're going to hear them, of course. When would you like to vote on them? Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, what meeting would you like to vote on them at?
I would like the April meeting.
So the April regular meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Alderman Thompson?
And I'm fine with whatever the consensus is to have a vote on this.
Okay, so the choices are having a second meeting the week of March 2nd.
No, Mayor, I don't want to do that.
Meeting, or considering him at the April meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. You gave us 3 choices. Sorry.
If you'd like to change, what would you like to have a second meeting the week of March 2nd?
No, ma'am. I don't want to have another meeting next week. If it's avoidable, I don't think it's necessary. I was just saying, instead of hearing it at a briefing, then do this at a public meeting. Even though the briefing is public, if we're not going to have planning board stuff, we can just do it in April. But if y'all want to do it at the briefing, that's fine. I just really don't enjoy voting on things during a briefing meeting. I would rather it be a public scheduled Board of Aldermen meeting.
Alderman Fulton, would you rather have it at the Alderman meeting? Because I'm fine with that. We'll just move it to the Alderman meeting.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Alderman Thompson.
Okay, Alderman Tenix, are you okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Alderman Boyer?
Just a question, Jeff, is there any reason why adding that additional 6 days before we vote on it in April, is there any reason why that would hold things up?
No, as Mayor Morgan pointed out, the public hearing is where we're trying to get public comments. That will be at your March meeting.
Right.
Between a briefing and a regular meeting, the timing would not matter.
Okay, then I'm okay with April, as Mayor Pro Tem Fulton said.
Just say Jenny.
Alderman Cruz?
I'm fine with hearing it in April. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Hatling, with it on the regular meeting, would you see that properly going in public sessions?
Yes.
Okay, so
the public sessions.
Mr. Hooker, if you could put it in public session, if you could put it immediately after item A. So it would be items B, C, D, E, and F on the April regular meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, before we adjourn, I do need to make one correction. So whenever that's
well, we're not done. We're still on item 2 on the briefing agenda, so we're far from adjourning. So go ahead.
The resolution that Mr. Hooker brought up about the annexation, changing the wording, the actual wording that needs to be changed is in the resolution. The description is fine. It doesn't really matter if Beeson Court goes away to whenever. I mean, it'll be there next week when you all do the voluntary annexation. So it doesn't matter if it's a private road and goes away 20 years from now, property is going to be annexed. So doesn't matter. But the wording that needs to be changed is in the resolution Beeson Road is no longer a state road. So that will have to come out, and it will just say that resolution of a 13.59 acre tract located on Beeson Road. It's no longer a state road. We took over maintenance of that road a year ago. So it's no longer State Road 2636. So we will change the wording in the resolution, the top of the resolution, and the description in the agenda will stay the same. It will say property located on Beeson Road at the intersection of Beeson Court. That description is fine. Beeson Court's probably not going away before Tuesday night. If it goes away Wednesday, we'll be okay.
I thought that I don't have a printed copy of what Mr. Hooker read, but my recollection is that what the board voted on also included the phrase across from Ivy Redmond Park.
I think it says that in the description. Yes, ma'am.
That's not currently on the agenda, at least the copy of the agenda I have in front of me.
It's in the resolution.
And I think the board voted to include that on the agenda.
Madam Mayor, yes, the agenda will say that it's located on Beeson Road across from Ivy Redmond Sports Complex. But the resolution and the legal description that's in Exhibit A says State Road number 2636 Beeson Road. And the State Road number 2636 reference apparently needs to come out, as it's no longer State Road 2636. It's simply Beeson Road.
Okay, as to what the board, which is the point that Mr. Swisher was making, as to what the board voted on to revise the agenda to reflect, could you read the statement that you had suggested to the board as you have it in your minutes or your draft minutes from this meeting?
Consideration of a resolution setting the public hearing for a voluntary annexation petition by Curtis Swisher, agent for the town of Kernersville, for property located on Beeson Road across from Ivy Redmond Sports Complex, containing 13.539 acres more or less.
Okay, I would propose, if Mr. Powell would be okay with this, that the board could, if this was the intent of the board, consistent with what Mr. Swisher is saying, that it could be worded as consideration of a resolution setting the public hearing for a voluntary annexation petition by Curtis Swisher, comma, agent for the town of Kernersville, comma, for property located on Beeson Road at the intersection of Beeson Court across from Ivy Redmond Sports Complex, containing 13.539 acres more or less.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion from Alderman Thompson, and I have a second from...
Second it.
I have a second from Alderman Cruz. We'll roll call to see all who are in favor. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton.
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson.
In favor. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Alderman Penix.
In favor.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz.
In favor.
Thank you. I think that addresses, that amendment to the agenda addresses everyone's concerns, Mr. Swisher. Are you okay with that?
I am, and we will look at the description in Exhibit A. It's possible that a portion of Beeson Road is still a state road. I just need to see where we stopped our maintenance and the state maintenance starts. So I would think the description itself is probably correct. We just need to take it out of the heading in the resolution, but we'll change that. That won't be a problem.
Okay, I appreciate you working with the town clerk and Mr. Powell to get that ready for us and perfect for our meeting. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
I am still on item 2 on the briefing agenda, but I'm willing to move on to item 3. If there's anything else we need to talk about the agenda for the regular meeting, please tell me. Anybody? All right, let us move on then to item 3 on the briefing agenda, which is matters to be presented by the mayor and board of aldermen. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton.
I'm going to be quick, but I do have a couple things, Mayor. Curtis or Doran, I'm going to just give you a couple notations that I've been notified about. There are limbs on the sidewalk, directly on the sidewalk, a big pile across from Kernersville Elementary School. So people are having to walk out in the road versus walking on the sidewalk. It's right across from Kernersville Elementary. Also, I'm thinking CCUC did the repair at Oakhurst and McConnell. Not sure what happened there, but it's a nightmare. And at least 3 or 4 people have stopped me when I'm walking to tell me about it. And, I have a Jeep, so I can get over that hump pretty quick, or the holes, but it's still bad. You could look into that. Also, there is a mattress just laying on the sidewalk off of Oakhurst Street, right at Cherry Street. Then I was contacted about the speed limit on North Main Street between Sheets and Wesley and Church. There's been numerous accidents. You might want to verify with Chief Alderman to find out if we need to consider lowering that speed limit to 35. I had 2 different citizens contact me on that. That's all I have there. You can keep going.
So, for the speed on that road, that's a state road, isn't it, Curtis? That section of it?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Doran, do you happen to know what the posted speed is?
Depends on which section. I think where she's talking about is 45.
That's correct.
So, I guess what we would, do we do a speed study to see if the speed could be lowered there, or is that something we request the DOT to do?
You would request DOT to do it.
Well, given that we've got, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Can we do that tonight, or does that need to be on the agenda?
You can do it tonight. Yes, ma'am.
The only thing I was going to add, Mayor, is given the new location of the food line, we'll have more pedestrian traffic in that area as well, walking down to the new food line. So I think it would be appropriate to look at that.
Yes, but it may be that that what they measure is what's currently existing rather than looking at the future. So we might have to revisit that after the store opens.
Okay, thank you. But are you good with requesting to go ahead and look at it now, or do you want to wait?
Well, I don't think it helps to wait because we can't to lower the speed on that road would require the NCDOT to agree with us.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's something we can do tonight to ask our staff to get in touch with them and for it to be started working on, I think that would be a positive thing. If there's a formal resolution we would need to adopt, maybe it could even be brought to us in matters to be presented at the Tuesday meeting.
You don't need to adopt a resolution. If you want us to contact DOT and see if they'll look into it, we can do that.
Is a consensus enough for that, Mr. Swisher?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is everyone in agreement?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay.
I am. I just want to make sure I understand what is it consensus to make sure there's sidewalks leading to the food line? Is that what you're saying?
No, it was Alderman Fulton's Mayor Pro Tem Fulton's first point that the speed limit in that section of Highway 150 might not be the appropriate speed limit given what's been built there and the level of traffic there.
Okay, and I apologize. I wasn't into what you were saying. I was thinking about sidewalks leading down to that grocery store. So different topic. So I apologize.
Yes,
Fine
it's the section.
Alderman Fulton said.
It's the section between Sheets and the Wesleyan Church. And she's correctly pointed out the development pattern there has changed.
Yes,
so perhaps 35 is too fast.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm okay with that. There's a lot to be discussed about leading down to that food line. So thank you.
All right. Anything else, Mayor Pro Tem?
No, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. All right. Alderman Thompson, anything tonight?
No, I don't have a whole lot to say. I just would like to say that my thoughts, and I think all of our prayers and thoughts go out to our officer down. It's been a tough week for our town and our officer. And I think that everybody's had the same thoughts and sentiments that we're all looking out for him and his family. And I think that our thoughts and prayers go out to him. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix.
I don't want to repeat what Chris just said, but I think we're all in agreement on that, and we're all praying for the family and for our whole police department. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Penix. Alderman Boyer.
Just one other comment on that. It really warms my heart to see the response of this community for Officer Hool, and so many organizations trying to help the family. And so that really is very, very heartwarming. It just makes me feel good about our community. The other thing is I appreciate all the departments that were involved with clearing of the roads with the ice storm. I know that Public Services, the fire department, police department, I'm not sure who else was involved, but we really, particularly with that first ice storm, we really had quite a situation, and there were a lot of people. I think, what did you say, 83 calls or something in the paper? The number of calls that or of things that were dealt with was really astronomical, and the town really rose to the occasion.
Alderman Cruz.
Yes, ma'am. I, like the other aldermen, want to thank everyone for the response and the affection that they've shown. And I just want us all to keep reminding our citizens that we're 100% behind our departments, with the fire department, the police department, and show that we respect them so we could gain their respect also. And just hope and pray Mr. Ho can recuperate and be here to enjoy his family and him. And then I had a couple of calls about debris and about our sweeper not coming up West Mountain, where we had the new development across from Deer Atachi, where we widened the street there, and there was right much debris and stuff on the side. And I had a couple of calls about that, wanting to know if our street sweeper did that, or if we could have them do it if it hadn't been. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Swisher, do you have any insights as to that section of road? Sometimes
Yes,
in new construction areas, it's difficult.
Yes, ma'am. The street sweeper does go up through there. But with the construction, I mean, the street sweeper could go by on a Monday, and then, depending on what's going on in there on Monday afternoon or Tuesday, they could track mud back out into the road. We've gotten some calls on it before, like Alderman Cruz has, and we will work with the developer to go out and clean up the road too. But certainly we'll send the street sweeper up there. It goes on all town roads every week. So it probably just went by and, swept one morning or one afternoon, and then the developer had some construction traffic get back out on the mountain street and get it muddy or whatever. But we'll certainly keep a check on it and send it up that way if the road needs to be swept.
This wasn't mud, Mr. Manager. It was just debris, I guess,
Okay.
where everybody comes out of the car crusher, and dust and dirt and little small debris is what I saw.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it was actually debris from OmniSource as opposed to the development across the street.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep a check on that as well. And we have worked with OmniSource, and they've had, in the past, it's not been recently, but in the past, they've had some of their employees go out and sweep up the debris in the street. The trucks are supposed to come in covered. Some of them are not covered as well as they should be, and they will drop debris out into the street. When they're making the turn to go in, they'll drop it off. So just have them, have the citizens that contacted you, if they see it again, just have them contact us, and we'll be glad to send the sweeper up that way.
Thank you.
Mr. Cruz, did you have anything else?
No, ma'am. Everything's fine.
Okay, I think I've gotten around to all of the elected officials. That would take us to item 4, matters to be presented by the town manager and town attorney.
I do not have anything, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Powell?
Do not have anything either.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further business before this Board of Aldermen, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second that.
Take your pick.
All right, did I hear Chris?
I think so.
Okay, I hear
Thank
Chris
you.
Thompson with a second. And let me be more organized for Keith. We have Mayor Pro Tem Fulton with the motion, Alderman Chris Thompson with the second.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
Good night. Thank you.
I take it that's in favor?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson,
In favor.
thank you. Alderman Penix,
In favor, thank you.
thank you. Alderman Boyer,
In favor. Thank you.
thank you. Alderman Cruz.
In favor, thank you, and great night also.
Thank you. This meeting is now adjourned.